Okay, Rob, welcome to the Charlie Vinch Show. And before we start this episode, I want to let our listeners know that if you like this episode, please share it and hit the subscribe button. And Rob Cox, we have you on. You have been a Muay Thai commentator in Thailand for 15 years. Is that right?
About that, yeah, around about. I'm not entirely, I can't entirely remember. That's one of the unfortunate things of being old. The memory's gone a little bit, but I'm saying it's probably about 15 years.
15 years as a Muay Thai commentator in Thailand.
Yep.
Tell me, what is that like?
I mean, for me, I've been involved in Muay Thai since about 1987. So, over 30 years now, 33 years. And I've always been a massive fan. So everything that I've done in the sport is, it's a massive bonus to me from kind of training originally. I didn't have a massive amount of fights. I had about 15 fights, coming to Thailand, falling in love with the sport and the culture here in Thailand. I first came to Thailand in 1991. I was going to the Lumpini back in what a lot of people call the golden era. So I've always had a massive kind of love for the sport and passion for it. And so getting the chance to actually work and actually make money out of it as well, it's living a dream. It's like that old cliche that if you do something you love, you never work a day in your life. And I've not commentated on particularly massive shows as such. I mean, the Thailand circuit, that kind of thing. I used to work. I was one of the original commentators when Thai Fight, which is a big promotion in Thailand, started having English language commentary. I used to work for them, so that's some big fights there.
I want to talk about that golden era later, though.
Yeah.
Can we touch on that?
Yeah, no problem at all.
Man, I want to know, because Rob, you've been involved in Muay Thai for a long time. Yeah. I want to know, and the listeners want to know, I've been involved in it for a while also, but I haven't been to Thailand and trained in Thailand. What do you think is one of, and I asked Dorian this, but I want to know your opinion too. What's one of the biggest lies that the Americans believe about the Muay Thai culture that maybe even like charlatans and these quacks bring over to America, and they're like, yes, you need to do this. Thais do this. And people in Thailand are like, stop doing that. This is ridiculous. Yeah. What is it?
Well, I watched the one you said with Dorian kind of, what Dorian said about the kick in the banana trees. That's kind of a bit of a cliche, without a doubt, Another one, I mean, I used to work for a famous gym called Khao Sam Rit in Bangkok. And I remember when I first went there, the owner, and he was joking, he said about, said the story about hitting your shins with Coke bottles, I mean, that's another kind of cliche that you'll get, people rolling bottles down the shins to make the shins harder. I've never ever seen that, people just kick. I mean, if you kick one of the bags in Thailand, I've got a gym myself, and the bags, I mean, if you kick the bag and you're not ready for it, it hurts, that's how they condition it, just repetition on the bag, on the pads. So say those two are probably a couple of the biggest cliches,
mm-hmm.
the kicking the banana trees and the using a Coke bottle. The owner of the gym, he was joking. He said, "Oh yeah, didn't you use a Coke bottle?" I said, "No, everyone knows you've got to use Fanta bottles." and he just laughed because he knew that I knew he was taking the mickey, But yeah, those two are saying that, having a gym myself, and where my gym is, we're kind of out on the outskirts of Bangkok, and we've actually caught a couple of young kids before, a couple of English kids that were at the gym recently as well. We've got there's a lot of farmland by my gym, and there's a lot of banana trees, and we had two young lads from England there recently, and they were like out there taking videos of each other kicking the banana trees. Probably go back and show their mates, yeah, this is us training in Thailand.
Right. Let me ask you a question. Is when you do the bow and the Y crew, I see some people in America, they do it 100 times during a class, and they do it 5, 6, Is this also like a big, we don't really do that in Thailand that much?
Not really. Kind of Westerners have taken a lot of things from Thailand and kind of overusing it a bit, I mean, I get people from wherever come up and whine me, and I'm from England. You're from Switzerland, why you want me? You know, but it's kind of, you know, whenever I first went to Thailand, you learn pretty quick. You know, the owner of the gym, the big boss, you'll wire him, but you're not wiring everyone you meet, or every 10 seconds in the gym, you're not bowing your head and whining. You'd end up with a sore neck probably if you did that. But
I've seen this. I've done seminars here in America. Everybody's buying everybody every 5 seconds.
Yeah, no, that's definitely not the norm. You know, I mean, most people are pretty relaxed about it. You know, and like I say, it's for paying respect to someone's older than you and in a position of superiority in society. You know, like a teacher or something like that. Or then you wire them when you first meet them if you haven't seen them for the day. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you first meet, it's like someone shaking hands. You don't shake someone's hand every 10 minutes, do you, in the West? So it's kind of similar. And when you see, it's kind of can be quite cringy sometimes, you know, when you'll see like I mean, I'm going to go off topic here, kind of a more controversial subject.
No, go for it.
I mean, me and Dorian, we work in Pattaya. Pattaya is kind of like, it's a seaside resort, and it's kind of got a certain notoriety for how it makes its money. You know, it was a famous place. It kind of built up during the Vietnam War as an R&R place, and it's you know, it's all the go-go bars and the bars and middle-aged Western tourists and very young Thai girls. And you got these kind of like, this guy is probably 56 or in his 60s or 70s, and he's doing this deep why, you know, like you would do that for, like, if you met someone that was kind of like the head of a school or something like that, or a university professor, you know, and he's doing to this like 18-year-old bar girl that's kind of covered in tattoos, and you kind of like, you know, then all the Thais are looking at it, and it's a little bit cringeworthy, really, because it's not how you act, you know. But it's kind of one of them things that unless you really come out to Thailand and you kind of immerse yourself in the culture, it can be a little bit more difficult to really catch on to, if you know what I mean. And another thing is with you know, with Muay Thai gyms throughout the world now, everyone's a crew or an ajahn,
right?
You know, not being funny, you know. I was at the very famous gym in Thailand, Sit Yot Tong. Sit Yot Tong gym in Thailand, a very famous gym, produced loads of champions over the years. A couple of the best fighters. And Samat Payakaroon, he's probably regarded as, by a lot of people, you know, especially the old timers in Thailand, is the most technical, best Muay Thai fighter ever.
Right.
And he was produced at Sit Yot Tong, and the owner of the gym, Yod Tong Sanan, and everyone knew him as Crew Yod Tong. He died a few years ago, and I remember when he died, I was privileged because I've been not just a commentator. I've had media access at Lumpini and Ratchaman since about 2003. I'd always be there taking photos at the stadiums, writing reports for magazines, that kind of thing. And I remember when he died, I was sat with a load of all the old boys, and like I said, it's a privilege. All these old Muay Thai journalists that have been writing for papers for 30, 40 years at least, you know, some of them writing about Muay Thai before I was born, and I'm old, you know.
Sure.
And one of them said, yeah, he was the last real crew. He was the last real someone that you could really call a crew, not just teach someone how to throw a punch or hold pads for someone, you know.
Right.
But he teaches the fighters everything. He built them up from nothing. And he said he wouldn't just teach them how to be a good fighter. He'd teach them how to be a good person and how to, you know, live in society. And now you've got Crew David from Birmingham, you know, and it's kind of, he's watering it down a little bit, to be fair, you know. Yeah, I mean, I know they're marking it that way with gradings, that kind of thing. I can understand that, you know. You want to get more people involved in the sport, and you know, not everyone wants to be a fighter. Not everyone wants to. I mean, it's a very, very tough, hard life to be a fighter, especially at a high level. So, you know, a lot of people say, "Oh, Muay Thai, if you don't get in the ring and you can't fight, what do you need? That's your black belt." But you know, you've got to look at marketing it and bring it up in different ways. But sometimes I think they get a little bit carried away with the whole crew and a jam thing in the West.
Yeah. Do you think that especially out here, like in America, and maybe even, you know, over in England and you know, Europe and everything, that they they make these crews and these Johns, and they make these things more accessible for people to become them, because it's a marketing tactic to make
to a certain degree.
I'm a crew. I trained for 4 years. I trained for 4 years, and now I'm a crew.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a bit of that. I mean, that's the problem. It's kind of separating the guys that have been to Thailand and fought and trained, and and they really do know the sport, and like you say, people that are just kind of, they want to open a gym and make bucks, make money, and they're not really qualified to do it. That's the big problem.
Okay, so when the two questions here, when John from wherever is a crew and he goes to Thailand and he tells the instructor at your gym or somebody's gym, he goes, I'm a crew. How does
give him a funny look, probably. but I mean, Thais are very, very good at, the whole Thai culture to a certain degree is non-confrontational. So they won't go out of their way to make you feel uncomfortable. So they'll be, oh yeah, oh good, oh really, oh you're a crew, oh yeah, nice one. Yeah, and then the guy will walk off and they'll be like, he's a crew, what? What's he on about? But or you'll get a funny, kind of a bit of a funny stare, but they won't make an issue out of it,
All right, well that's good. Because in all fairness, the person who became the maybe the certified crew doesn't know right from left. He only knows what he kind of got brought up in, and then he goes to Thailand and he trains at one of these places like your gym or one of these other really high level gyms, and he's like, you know what, I really don't know anything. Maybe I can take a step back myself.
I mean, I've been involved 30 odd years now, and I've had my own gym probably for 12 years at least. I've been involved with other gyms before that, including a couple of very big gyms, I still think I know a fraction of what a lot of these guys that I'm working with or meeting every day, and every day I'm learning something. Dorian's like, oh well, you're the expert. I'm not really, I mean it's a big compliment, but and Dorian's the same. He's always trying to learn. Right. You never stop learning.
Yeah, I'm the big, and that's our ego, right?
Yeah,
the ego, letting the ego go, and just being like,
that's right.
I got more to learn.
Yeah, I mean, I literally, if I sit down, I mean, one of my old trainers, this guy Pitt, Uncle Pitt, he never fought a super high level. I mean, he's 65 now, and he still holds pads, and he's still tough, and he still trains himself. He'd fight if he could. He fought, I think, about 2 years ago when he was at 63.
63, and he's fighting Muay Thai still?
Yeah, I mean, if he could, he wants to fight now, but there's just no one there for him to fight anymore. Because everyone of his kind of age, or maybe even 5 or 6, or even 7 or 8 years younger, no one's fighting anymore. So you couldn't put him in with a young 20-year-old, but I can sit down with him and have a conversation and literally pick up so much every day. I could do it, if I had the time. He trained Gitsong Rit gym in Bangkok for a long time. He trained Knockwid Davey, who fought Jerome Labana.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember that fight. The massive size difference in K1. He trained Changpur, Gitsong Rit, Knockwid's brothers, Pai Dang. So, and he was at Gitsong Rit for a long time. So he's worked with a lot of big names that have kind of fought in the West as well. And the knowledge level is just something else.
So for the listeners, Rob, how would a person, because a lot of people that are listening to this maybe haven't even done martial arts before, or they're looking to get into martial arts, or maybe they're even at a point where they're looking to switch places or they're moving somewhere. How does somebody, especially in America or a place that's not Thailand, how do they differentiate? What are some things that they can look for in a good place to train for Muay Thai that you would say these are telltale signs that they should be looking for?
That's a good, I mean, to be honest with you, I'm not massive. I've been in here for so long now. I'm kind of out of the loop. I mean, I used to train in gyms in England and that. I mean, obviously just be prepared to do your research. Nowadays, things like the internet help a lot, I mean, there's forums, there's Facebook pages where you can go on and ask people, you can, I would recommend to anyone, research first, make sure you check, if you find a gym, search the gym on the internet, see if there's anything on there, any good signs. People, if they produce any decent fighters, that should be something you should always look for. Have they got a good stable of fighters? Does it look like a kind of a McDojo kind of like, are they just asking you, all right, well, if you're going to come and train here, you've got to buy a pair of shorts and your papagia and your anklets. If you don't buy the ones for the club with the t-shirt, you can't start. Then you got to be. There's got to be a warning sign there. Probably go up then. That maybe it's not a full-on, gym that you're actually going to learn something, but it's more somewhere that they're looking to just to make money.
Sure.
But just do your research. I think that's the best option nowadays. I mean, it's so easy now to find information on the internet.
Yeah, it is, and it's a good thing, right? Like people,
definitely.
Years ago, who didn't know that they're like, what are you saying? They didn't know the right from left. Anybody could have taught them anything. They'd be like, "That's the
right.
word of God."
And you get some quite funny moments, nowadays with people getting found out as well, don't you? It's because the days of like claiming to have been Lumpini champion and that kind of thing, and within about 10 seconds, people know the truth, don't they? I remember a funny story about this must have been about 12 years ago now. There was a promotion called Slam, and they used to show big shows in Holland. And but anyway, there was a massive show at Lumpini, and it was a Lumpini birthday show, and there was Sanchai. Sanchai, obviously.
Yeah,
He's probably the number one.
Jordan of Muay Thai.
Yeah, he fought a guy called Arono wore Petpun. And I think he beat Arono that night. No, Arono beat him for the Lumpini title. It was the only time he managed to beat Sanchai. And I managed to get a picture that's kind of went viral of Sanchai doing the cartwheel kick. It was just before they banned him from doing it. Okay. But anyway, there was this friend of mine who was a kind of a manager of Sanchai who owned a gym, and he had this Dutch kid with him that had taken him to train with Arono at Rono's gym. And this kid was kind of sat at the ringside wearing a pair of boxing shorts. And I thought, oh, fair enough, he's enthusiastic, and sat there and he's enjoying the fights. And after the show had finished, about 2 days later, all of a sudden on the internet, people say, oh, who's this guy? He's claiming he fought at Lumpini and he won a Lumpini title. And he kind of bought a replica belt in the shop that is like a twin shop next to the stadium. He'd gone round to the back where they take the pictures with the Lumpini stadium sign, and he put a replica belt on, take his t-shirt off, someone took the pictures, and he posted in Holland that he won the Lumpini title that night.
Oh my God.
But the replica belt he was wearing was for Ratchaman Stadium as well. That was the funny part about it.
I couldn't even match.
Yeah, it wasn't even from that stadium. But, the days of the internet, you can't get away with that now, can you?
Oh, no. No. And what year was that?
Oh, must have been about 2005, maybe.
Yeah, so
I can't remember, to be honest.
This is 2005. I want to get into it with you, Rob, because I was getting into it with Dorian. Dorian's like, no, you got to talk to Rob. You got to talk to Rob about, what has been the biggest thing stylistically that has changed between the golden era and now in Muay Thai. Stylistically, let's just do stylistically, because when we look back at like Ramon and Koban when they fought, in my mind, Koban was heavier on the traditional, like, I don't want to
without a doubt.
Traditional Muay Thai, tapping the foot, elbows out.
The pace, the rhythm.
Right, the rhythm. And then Ramon is elbows in, a little bit lower, and he's heavy with the hands and low kick.
And it's very kind of, it's rotating with a lot of his shots, Ramon, big left hooks and
his volume.
Definitely.
The volume and the volume and the timing is different. Koban's looking for, like combos of like 2s and 3s and 4s. Ramon's looking for like 5, 10, 12.
That's right.
In a blitz kind of motion.
You never really see that kind of Dutch style in the gyms in Thailand. I've never seen it, in all the many years I've been training there, of, drilling combinations. It's all single shots and it just tends to flow naturally. I mean, you'll get Thai pressure fighters that come forward, but there is a different rhythm about it. You can sense it. What's
something that you've seen happened in your long years of commentating and watching?
Yeah.
Seen that golden era, or we'll say 15 years ago, whenever it was, until now, that you're like, definitely this has happened with everybody, or
oh yeah, I mean, when I say the golden era, I mean I first came in 1991, and that was probably the best part for me anyway. I mean, you know, you had Nate. I mean, you're in the US. You got in there now. He's working as a trainer now. Gensak Sorplunge. I mean, he was 2 times fight of the year. Around then, you had Bunlai, Ole. So many great fighters. And then I came in, when I first started working as a commentator, I think the golden era had already passed him, to be honest with you. You know, I kind of got there 1991. And when I came back and started working, it was 2003. I'd say the golden era was kind of finished then. I mean, it was still a good era. There was still some great names. I mean, Sancho was kind of at his prime. You had Singdam, people like that. The old Lumpini was still going strong. But, I mean, the true golden era, I would probably say, would be probably mid-80s to kind of mid-90s maybe.
Sure. So what's changed in 2003 when you started watching until now?
Yeah, well, I kind of noticed, obviously I came to Thailand the first time, 1991. I'd stayed for a month, fell in love with Thailand, I've got to come back. And 1992, I came back and I stayed 6 months. And a year after that, I stayed 9 months. And then it's kind of like, right, I've got to get my act together now. I'm not getting any younger. I'm going to buy a house, you know, do the kind of sensible thing. But I was always be coming back. And because I've been staying in Thailand for a long time, 6 months, 9 months, I got to know all the gyms and all the top fighters. And, you know, I was always following it. And every time I'd always be going to the stadiums when I was here. And, you know, between kind of 1995, maybe 96, when I kind of decided to settle down, and 2001, when I moved back out here, I would be coming back once a year or twice a year. I'd come back for either a month or 2 weeks. So if I came out for 2 weeks, I'd come twice a year. And if I came for a month, I'd come once a year. No, that's how much holiday I had from work. But, you know, every year there was a noticeable drop in the crowds, you know, and yeah, in the size of the crowds, you know. From watching the fight, watching the fights, you know, and it was noticeable, you know.
At Lumpini,
at Lumpini and Ratchelman, and I think, you know, when I was first there in 1991, I mean, the stadiums were absolutely packed. I remember going to see a guy called Samson Isan, who was a big name. That was the first time I was here, and he fought a guy called Chachai Noi Chao Roi Oi. And literally, you could not move in the stadium. And there's 3 parts of the stadium at Lumpini. There's ringside, second class, third class. And nowadays, the second class is all the gamblers, and the third class is the gamblers that
lots of cigarettes.
Well, not as big heavy hitters. I mean, they can't smoke in the stadiums anymore. But the heavy hitters are in the second class. You know, they call them Ka Yai, which means big legs, you know. That's the guys that are betting maybe $1 million baht sometimes on a fight, you know.
Wow.
But and then the third class is the kind of the guys that are not so wealthy, you know. And ringside nowadays, you know, you probably go around and count. You probably count 10 ties. But back in the golden era, when I went to see Samson, like that, for example, that night, ringside was just heaving, and you could probably count 10 foreigners. Maybe 10 or 20, that was it. And it was all ties. Okay. And, you know, they're in the kind of the exit tunnels, crammed into there, everyone trying to get in to get a view, you know, just absolutely jam-packed. And they were gambling more back then than they are now. There was just, you know, just such big crowds, and the atmosphere was electric, you know. But over the years, gradually, the gambling has taken over. It's, like the gambling side of it. Back then, there was more gambling, but they didn't have, how can I put it? Like, they didn't have the same power over the stadium, over the promoters. Right. Whereas, as they got more power, it kind of diluted the way the fights are scored to a certain degree, and the way the fights are fought as well. And that kind of that's, I think, why you saw more and more ties not coming to the stadiums anymore. There's other reasons as well, you know, things like mobile phones, the internet. Why do I go and drive an hour in traffic to go to Lumpini when I can sit at home, get on Facebook with one of the Facebook pages where they're offering the odds, just ring up my bookmaker and put a bet on, you know. So people like just bet from home, you know, a lot of it. So that's the mobile phones really kind of saw a drastic reduction as well. Mm-hmm. But there was a point where they banned them from taking them in the stadiums. You know, you had to go and there's like a little wooden booth inside Lumpini by the entrance, and you go up to the little counter, hand your mobile phone over, and then put it in a basket and give you a little sticker with a number on it, you know. And after the fight, you go up, give them your number, and get your phone back, you know. But that didn't last too long. But you know, that the mobile phones and other things, so many other things that they're interested in our ties. English football is massive, you know. I mean, it is all over the world, but in particular in Thailand, English football, Italian, German, and they're gambling on that. And you know, it used to be that there was one daily newspaper for Muay Thai,
right?
Muay Sian, and every day you buy that, and it'd have the fights for that night. Because there's fights every day of the week. Every day you buy the paper and have the odds for the show that night, and have form for the boxers. You know, a little write about the last 5 fights, and some of the higher level. They're called CN Muay, which is like boxing experts. These are the high level gamblers. They'll give in their tips, like why they think so and so is going to win. You know, that kind of thing, and it'd have news in there, that kind of thing. And you're going to like a local 7-Eleven, and they have newspapers in there, and there'd be one copy of that. But there'd be about 5 football magazines, and there'd be about 10 copies of each. And that's going by how much they're sold every day. Do you know what I mean? And I saw that creeping in. You know, in the 90s. Why are they selling so many football magazines now? Yeah. You know, and there's only one boxing newspaper because the interest. People are kind of moving on to other sports. But going back to the whole gambling side of thing and how it's changed. Back in the golden era, they used to come out and fight a lot harder, you know, from round 1, round 2.
Yeah.
Where, and I would say the fighters used to be a lot more well-rounded as well. Whereas today, you know, kind of a lot of emphasis today is the clinch, power, strength in the clinch. And, you know, you can like go out for the first 2 rounds and score the most beautiful kicks ever, but they're not really scored. They're not really seen as important to the fight, the first 2 rounds. Round 3, you know, you could be scoring with good technique, but round 4, the other guy comes out. He's super strong in the clinch. Maybe he's a little bit better at making weight than your guy. Mm-hmm. So he's got that advantage in size and strength. And he goes in, just gets him in the clinch, throws him down a couple of times, lands with a couple of knees, and boom, the odds have gone. And you know, as they say now, most of the fights, it's like people are looking at what the odds the gamblers are giving rather than worrying about what the judges are scoring the fights, you know.
Yeah.
So, and it tends to go on how the gamblers have the fight. So they've got that power there.
Rob,
the fights aren't as exciting.
Do you think that it's changed so much, what you're saying right now, because of the gambling, and because gambling is so much stronger now than it was in the golden era?
It's always been strong. I mean, they've always been betting big money. There's always been loads of bets. But going back to, like I was saying there, you know, so they're going on the scores on the odds now. So, for example, the judges think, all right, well, I'm going to give that to Red because he scored more with his kick. He was more in control of the ring, blah, blah, blah. The gamblers got blue 50-1 on. They'll storm out and go out the stadium, and they'll refuse to come back in. So, of course, they've got that power there. The promoters are scared to upset the gamblers. The stadiums, they can't upset because your regular ties that used to go back and watch, like back when I was saying in the 90s, this fight I went to with Samson in, it was absolutely heaving. And it used to be like that, you know, at least 2 or 3 nights a week, you know. Not every show was massive, but there was still, you know, when it was a big show, you could guarantee the place would be heaving. And all those kind of ties, a lot of those ties all kind of just fell out of love with the sport, you know. And it's, you'll say now, it's like, you know, rounds 1 and 2, nothing happens. Round 3, they'll maybe start to warm up a bit. round 4, there's the action, the money round, and they'll all say round 4's a money round. If you get to a certain point in the round 4 when you're ahead, doesn't matter what you do in the 5th, unless you knock him down, maybe you're not going to get back in the fight. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of like they'll have a big 4th round, and then they'll dance in the 5th round.
Are there less knockouts
now? There's still knockouts, you know.
Are there less now than there was before?
To be honest with you, I'd probably say probably not that much difference, you know. But round 5, you know, a lot of times the corner, and you'll see both corners. If a fight's really close, both cornermen or both corners will be kind of waving their arms like this, like telling the boxer, just stand there, don't stand in your guard and make like you're going to throw something and just kind of dance about a bit. We take our chance with the judges. They'd rather take their chance like with rather than rushing in. Say you rush in, right, I'm going to land with a big kick, and you lose your balance or you miss, and your opponent, bang, huge kick. That's it. You're not coming back. So they'd rather take their chances. They think, right, the odds are it's 2-1 now on us. We'll take our chances. And they'll literally dance, like both standing in front of each other with their gloves up like this for like maybe even 2 minutes of the round, maybe even the whole round, you know.
So do you think it's the people are not, like you said, they're not being as aggressive as they were before?
No. Well, there's still aggression there. This, you know, you have to have aggression to win the fight. But like I say, you know, it's if they don't fight for 2 rounds, the first 2 fights they don't do anything. They virtually don't do anything. You know, first 2 rounds. Round 3, then it starts to heat up. Round 4, you've got a big round. Then that's when it can really be heated. And then the final round, you know, you might not see anything happen. You know, and it's why do people want to go and watch that just for entertainment? Right. The people that are only going to go and watch that are the people that are going to be betting money on it. So the numbers, that's kind of why the stadiums are in the situation now where they're kind of desperate to get people in there, and they can't afford to upset the only people that are going to go there, which is the gamblers, you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That last point, that made sense.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
We can't upset the people who are actually paying and betting here.
That's right, because if the people that pay and bet don't go in, then they're not going to sell any tickets. I mean, the stadiums, they're not so beholden on it because the promoter has to pay them the rent. So it's the promoter that's going to have the problem. You know, he's got to find enough people to come into the stadium that want to come and pay and go in, and if he don't get enough, you know, they lose money.
Yeah,
and it's kind of it's been beholden, and you know, the last probably at least 10 years, it's kind of there's a big reliance on Western tourists as well. You know, if the tourists don't come into ringside, then they're going to struggle. You know,
you think the Thai culture? So I met I went to a seminar like 2 years ago in Vegas, and I met this guy who has a talk show in Thailand. I have to look at the name again. And we were talking, and I said, "Hey, do you know Thai boxing?" He's like, "Of course I do. I'm Thai." Like, he has this big talk show in Thailand. And I said, "Do you do Muay Thai?" He said, "No, I don't do Muay Thai." He goes, "I think the Thai culture is getting away from Muay Thai a little bit more than they were 20 years ago." And I said, "Why do you think that?" He said, "I think because the Thai culture thinks it's too aggressive." Do you think that's?
I think maybe to a certain degree. I think more. There's a kind of like an image for Muay Thai, especially like the stadiums, the Lumpini, Ratchaman. There's kind of an image for Thais outside of Muay Thai as kind of being gamblers, tough guys,
right?
A little bit seedy, a little bit, and the boxers. Most of the boxers, you know, it's like it's like boxers in the West, in America. You know, you had that long tradition of fighters from the poorest background, kind of hunger. You know, hunger breeds tough fighters, isn't it? Basically, so most of the Thai fighters, the Muay Thai fighters, they're from poor, tough backgrounds. You wouldn't get them fighting otherwise, you know. Or why would you get in there and get, you know, and the training they do as well, the level of commitment they put into as fighters as well. You know, there's not many people that do it outside of
crazy people.
You know, people that the necessity, or crazy people that really. You know, so Muay Thai's image is kind of for a longer, even when I was first, you know, 29 years ago, it's kind of there's a seediness about it, low class. The boxers are from their poor farming regions. The people going to watch the fights are mafioso, possibly gamblers, possibly. I took a friend of mine. This must be going back over 10 years now, and this guy's a regular Thai guy. I knew him from the gym I used to stay in Bangkok. A mutual friend of ours used to have a dry cleaners. I used to take my stuff to get washed there, and they love football. They're crazy Man United fans. I'm a Chelsea fan. We'd always have a bit of banter, but I'd go in there and we'd have dinner, drink whiskey, watch football, and we'd become good friends over the years. And this guy was, he was a lift engineer. He's got a couple of bachelor's degree and a master's degree in engineering, and his mum was involved in tourism in some way. I can't remember how exactly, but he rang me up one day out of the blue. I hadn't seen him for a while. Oh, I've got these. There's 5 people. They're from Canada, I think, and they want to go and watch a Muay Thai fight. Can we go on the Sunday? And I said, well, Sunday's not very particularly good, but it's a kind of low level in the stadiums. Mm-hmm. But yeah, why not? And he's kind of come in, and he was kind of like, there was this nervousness and apprehension about him. He's kind of like, he's looking around the stadium. He's like, oh yeah, I've always been a bit too scared to come in, wondering about the crowd, that kind of thing. And that's kind of the image for a lot of time. I mean, it's actually changing a little bit now. There's certain things that kind of are bringing people back into Muay Thai and regular Thais that kind of got an education, a good job, students, women. In the last few years, it's kind of exploded a little bit, and it's kind of helped some gyms to survive a little bit, because just producing fights and fighting the stadiums is not a very profitable business, especially not nowadays. The crowds are not as big, the purses for the fighters are not as big. So in the last year, there's been an explosion, and probably about maybe last 5 years. Thais are kind of fitness orientated a lot, and they want to go to the gym. And there's been kind of an explosion in Muay Thai fitness gyms opening up. Yeah. And kind of like aerobic style training.
Here too.
Girls
American
training,
too.
Students. Yeah. And that's got people kind of interested. And also certain promotions like Thai Fight kind of started it a little bit. They were putting on these massive shows. And all of a sudden you're getting like pop stars and models and that going to Thai Fight and sitting ringside and waving a Thai flag, and every time they put on a show, and it's packed with regular Thais. Now you've got shows like Max Muay Thai. There was another show, Super Champ, and they're all kind of they're more focused on entertainment. And right. Me and Dorian, we work for Max Muay Thai. Max Muay Thai is very, very entertainment orientated. They're kind of like, they don't let any kind of it's natural. You're going to have gambling in Thailand, so there's gamblers allowed in the stadium, but they don't let them have any kind of say over it. Do you know what I mean? The boss is very strict about that. Excuse me. They rely on TV sponsors, and they get their income from that. So they don't care if the gamblers don't come in. That's not their market. They've got a tour. Obviously not at the moment due to this pandemic, but they'd have like in Pattaya, there's a lot of Chinese tourists, so they used to have like 30, 40 tour coaches for the Chinese coming in to watch the fight, and they're kind of like, they were getting massive ratings on TV. There's only one show that would beat them, and the number one show in Thailand is Channel 7 on a Sunday, but that's like an institution that's been going for like 30, 40 years, and it's kind of the show that everyone talks about. Sunday afternoon, Channel 7 fights. They also make the fights at Channel 7 very exciting. They like to match the fights, so they're kind of like real gung-ho. They have a big Fight of the Year prize, which is like over $1 million baht. So there's always a good chance you're going to see a great fight at Channel 7. That's the number one rated TV show. But Max Muay Thai beat all the other shows outside of that, outside of Channel 7. They beat all the other shows, and they were like getting massive views purely because they were kind of, they've gone to the 3-round format, which some people don't like, but the fights are just fast paced, and
it's a 3-round format, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Each round is what? How long is each round?
3 minutes.
And clinch is allowed. Elbows are allowed.
Clinch is allowed. It's normal Muay Thai, but they kind of the fighters get a bonus. There's a bonus system. Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze.
No, it's all good.
Excuse me.
All good.
They have a bonus system.
It's good to get it out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 5,000 baht for a bonus, 10,000 super bonus, and a 20,000 double super bonus. And to win the double super bonus, you've got to have an absolute war. But these bonuses on offer as well. 5,000 baht bonus if you knock your opponent out. Oh, it's 500 baht for every stitch, and both fighters get that. So say me and you fight, I get 20 stitches. We both get 10,000 baht each because stitch bonus. So there's a real incentive there to really fight, and the fighters really go for it there.
That's cool.
So the ratings are through the roof. They've got people there. They've got a lot of staff, the promoters there on the fighters all the time. As soon as round one ends, if one fighter's going back and dancing and doing anything, they're around there. All right, what are you doing? Forward. You can't fight it like that. If you don't fight, go forward. You're not going to be coming back here again. You know, that kind of thing. And they're just pushing them all the time.
This is different than fighting in the Lumpini.
Without a doubt. You know, in Lumpini, they're telling them, don't do anything in the first 2 rounds. You know, the trainers are telling them, go easy. Right? Yeah. So you'll get these fights that are very, very exciting. And
they want the bonus.
They want the bonus. They want, you know, it's all about entertainment. And that's getting Thai people kind of watching it and enjoying it again. You know, they're getting people queuing up around the block. Thais coming in that want to go in and watch as well. So there has been a kind of a shift back where people are getting interested in Muay Thai again.
That's good.
Maybe not so much in the... And of course, the big one now is One Championship. You know, that's really getting the interest going. They're getting some of the top stadium fighters now, putting on... big matchups, the Impact Arena in Bangkok. I'm not sure how many that holds. I'd say probably about 12,000 people, and you know, there's kind of a buzz again. So things are kind of changing. Although the stadiums have been in a little bit of a bad way, you know, it's not beating about the bush, or you know, they've been struggling for a while, and with crowds and whatever. But there's kind of like I said, there's a kind of an interest with regular Thais starting to look back towards Muay Thai again a little bit now. Yeah. Well, it has been in the last few years, you know, due to these kind of these fitness gyms starting up.
Sure.
And like I say, there's a few promotions that have got people more interested in it again.
Do you also think that like people are looking at the combat sports now, you know, way different now than they were before? Like more celebrities now, more mainstream people are doing Muay Thai and Jiu Jitsu than any other time in history, right? Like they do it because they want to cross train, or you know, they're like, wow, that was and we both, I mean, you know this, if you do pads and you do bag work and maybe you light spar and you do that a couple times a week and you've never done Muay Thai before, it's probably going to be the best workout you've ever had in your life.
Without a doubt. Yeah,
right. And then once you get that workout, you're like, this is what I've been missing for my whole life. Like, this is incredible. So, do you see that in Thailand too? Like a lot of the celebrities are like, I want to train Muay Thai, and you know, I mean,
there's been, like I said, there's been kind of with Thai fight. You know, one of the first MCs they had, a guy called Matthew Dean. He's half Thai, half Australian, and he was like a pop star, soap opera star, and but he's always been a big Muay Thai fan. I mean, I had a forum on one. I had a website and had a forum on there. You know, I'm going back probably before this whole kind of swing towards watching Muay Thai again started, and he'd be posting on there. And he's good friends with Sanjay, and he's knowledgeable. You know, he's an actual Muay Thai fan, and since then he was doing the Thai fight promotions, and then he opened his own gym, and it's quite a successful gym, you know, and that's bringing, obviously he's a massive name. His wife's a pop singer, TV celebrity as well, soap opera stars, both of them. That's drawn Matthew Dean. The gym's called Kong Sita.
Kong Sita, Matthew Dean.
Matthew Dean, I forget his surname, Chantavanit, he's got a Thai surname. But this guy's, you know, and he's a great guy, Matt, as well. But he's passionate about the sport, you know, and he's kind of brought a whole different crowd into it as well. Like you say, and my wife kind of started a Muay Thai fitness gym near our gym, kind of separate away from the the kind of the more hardcore fighters gym, you know.
Right.
And we were getting a quite well-known soap opera star come and train with us for a bit, you know.
Wow, that's awesome.
It's happening a lot now. It's it just needs that little bit more of a push, and you know, one championship's kind of getting a little bit more attention towards MMA in Thailand. It's still not really taken off just yet, but there's a few very good MMA fighters coming through from Thailand now. You've got Loma Lukbunmi, who's in UFC now. She'll definitely bring a lot of attention to it. There's Stamp Fairtex that fights someone. She's been fighting. She's champion at kickboxing, champion at Muay Thai. She's started fighting MMA now, and obviously she's at Fairtex, so she's got a very, very strong team there that are really pushing it. They got DJ Jackson's the BJJ coach for her, and you know, very, very good team of people there. You know, and Dorian goes and trains with them sometimes. So that's all starting to move a little bit as well. You know. Oh yeah. And hopefully in the future, I've got really. I was talking to you before. You know, I never really used to be into MMA, but because I work for one now as a judge for the kickboxing and Muay Thai fight, so I've got more and more into it, and that's a scene that's slowly starting to develop.
What do you think that, and being that you've been in this for a while and you're really in the martial arts on the public eye, where do you see combat sports? Whether it's competition or fitness or fun or training for, you know, for law enforcement or whatever, where do you see the future of martial arts? Because it has come so far in the past 10 years. Where do you see it in the next 10 years from here on out?
In Thailand or everywhere?
All over the world, because I think what we're seeing, we're seeing a shift everywhere, right? Like in America, everybody does BJJ now. All these movie stars, and then people go to Thailand. There's a rapper. I think his name is Wiz Khalifa.
Wiz Khalifa, he trained with Sanchai, didn't he?
Okay, he has pictures with Sanchai, and he's training in Thailand. So is that the new thing?
Yeah, I mean Sanchai, I think he's friends. Like I don't know how it started with Aubameyang, who's a striker for Arsenal, who's a big football club. I mean, he's a massive name in the football world, and he's close friends with Sanchai via Instagram, and they're messaging each other, you know. So it's easy. I think it's more and more people that, you know. The thing is nowadays it's so more accessible, isn't it? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you know, you can watch a fight stream on Facebook, or there's so much easier now to actually find out about it and to promote it and market it. So, you know, I think it's only going to get bigger. But, you know, back when I first started out, you know, when I was about 18, you had a couple of magazines in England, one that come out once a month, you know. And other than that, if you didn't know someone that was doing so, you've heard about that Muay Thai gym? And what? You know, if you didn't know someone or you didn't buy these magazines and really search it out, you wouldn't even know it was going on. Do you know what I mean? Whereas now you only have to open Facebook up and it's all over it, or Twitter or Instagram, you know. It's become so much more accessible. So I can only see it getting more and more bigger, you know.
You know,
which is great.
I'll tell you a funny story. When I was 13, I'm 35 now. When I was 13, I started training Muay Thai. There was a guy here in America who trained under Arjun Chai. You know who Arjun Chai is?
Okay, yeah.
And he had good Thai boxing. And I remember telling my friends I do Thai boxing. And I really didn't know exactly what it was. Like when I first started doing it, I was like, it's martial arts. It's punching and kicking. This is cool. So my friend was like, man, that stuff's baloney. I'll kick your ass. Yeah. So I was like, okay, I'm 13. Let's fight. Like, let's fight. Yeah. I kicked him in his leg one time. Yeah. And he just stopped and he just fell on the ground. He's like, oh my God, my leg hurts. Like, ow, stop. So then I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. It's like that famous Tyson quote, isn't it? Everyone, whatever, until you get punched in the face, you know. Everyone thinks they're tough until you get punched in the face. That's the reality, you know.
Do you have any stories, Rob, like that you've seen in all of your years of training in Thailand or at your gym where somebody comes in from wherever, and they literally just call out the camp. They're just like, this is baloney. This is bullshit.
Yeah.
I'll kick anybody's ass here. And you just saw them get worked over.
I've never really seen that in Thailand as such. I mean, I don't think anyone would, you know, you'd have to have probably have some kind of severe mental illness to go into a gym in Thailand and say, right, I'll take on everyone in there, you know. But, I mean, I do remember one story stands out, and this must have been, 25, 26 years ago. And I used to train at this gym in Bangkok, Sortanikan. It was a very, very famous gym. Mm-hmm. At one point, it was the biggest gym in Thailand. It was owned by the original owner, a guy called Clow Tanakan. He was assassinated.
He was assassinated?
Yeah. But
Why?
He was a big godfather figure. You know, he was the owner of the gym, but he was like they called it in Thai, Jiao Po, godfather. And, you know, there was obviously, back then, there was a real, I mean, I find it fascinating now, and it's kind of another thing that's kind of a privilege for me because I can speak Thai and I know all the press guys, so I'm always talking about, you know, the old days, that kind of thing. And but anyway, his gym, Sortanikan, it was actually in the movie Kickboxer. I don't know if you remember, if you've ever seen the movie Kickboxer, Jean-Claude Van Damme. And there's a scene in the film where he walks in the gym, and there's this little oldish Thai, fat old Thai guy with a bald head who's the owner, the manager of the gym. And this was actually the guy from the gym, and I used to train with this guy. You know, I remember going in there the first time. You're the guy from John Graham, and he was kind of like, yeah, who? You know, he didn't know anything about it. They're kind of not really interested in the Thais, but very famous gym. And one of the trainers, a guy called Mook, and he used to fight around 140 pounds. So he was quite a big Thai.
Yeah.
He'd stopped fighting. He was holding pads, so he was probably about 70 odd kilos. And anyway, there was this foreigner came in training one time. I forget where he was from. He might have been Israeli, but he was kind of a little bit aggressive and a little bit, and I'd met this guy in Pattaya training at another gym. Mm-hmm. And I had this vibe back when I was training in the gym in Pattaya. This guy's a bit of an, not an idiot, but, you know, someone that,
I got you. I know you.
Bit of an ego, chip on his shoulder.
He's being an
asshole.
Want to
go real hard.
Yeah.
He fought, I mean, in Pattaya, they've got all the girly bars, and there was 2 or 3 bars back in the day where they'd have a ring set up, and you could go in there, and they were just shows basically for the trainers and ex-fighters that earn a few barting tips afterwards, and they put on a bit of a show fight every night for all the tourists. And this guy had fought in one of these bars, and he'd fought this Thai that was probably about 52 kilos, and he was about 80 kilos, and he'd smashed him.
And outweighed by like 6 pounds.
And he was strutting around the ring afterwards, you know, like,
I'm a tough guy,
I'm a bad guy, you know. Anyway, we're in this gym in Bangkok, and he's training with this guy Mook, who's he was a very good fighter. He fought for the Lumpini title, 140 pound back in the day, and he was a real, you know, with a lot of the Thais, they're very, very unassuming, and if you just talk to them, they're super friendly. The whole thing about the Thai smile, welcoming you. And Mook was like that. He was just one of the nicest guys you'd ever meet. But I mean, when he used to train fighters, he would kill them, you know. And he was training top level guys, and I'd watch him taking them on the pads, and I think, I wouldn't like to be that fighter, you know. He's holding pads from them and kicking them full power as they're coming in, and making sure they're blocking properly. Anyway, he's messing about, and he's showing this guy some technique, and he's being nice and friendly, blah, blah, blah. And you know, the whole thing about the Thais with the head is the top part of your body, spiritually, your foot is your lowest part. Mm-hmm. And, you know, you can push kick to the face in a fight, but it's not particularly seen as a very polite technique. And this guy, for some reason, maybe thought, I'm going to show off here, push kicked him Mook in the face, and he just went,
While he's holding pads. While he's holding pads.
No, they were just doing light sparring. They had no gloves on. They're just doing light technique. Kind of like sparring. They play sparring. And he push kicked him in the face, and he just went bang, full power, right cross, dropped him on the floor. And he just pointed at this guy, sat on the floor. He's like looking up at him like, what did I do wrong? And he just, you don't do that in Thailand. And then he just picked him up and carried on.
Just like normal day. No problem.
But it was just like this flash, crack. He just, you know, changed like bang, right cross, right on the chin, dropped him on the floor, and then and picked him up and like, all right, you're right now. Yep. You don't do that in Thailand. No, don't do that again in Thailand. And that was it. You know, lesson learned.
Gone. The dude was good then.
Yeah, he was very good with him. I think he actually went to train at another gym the next day. I think it kind of put him off a little bit.
Well, you know what? I mean, you've been in Thailand a long time. Nobody wants that in their training culture, in their gym.
Nah, there's certain things you do. There's certain things you do and there's certain things you don't do, and yeah, you see it now. I mean, I see it in my gym sometimes. People come in and they're a bit of a chip on their shoulder, and because the Thais are quite unassuming and friendly and nice, sometimes people, it's like anything. It's like in normal life. People see a weakness, or people see kindness and they take it as a weakness, and you can see that a little bit sometimes in the gyms, and it's always there's always that little sweet feeling when they get shown the right way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, of course. And listen, people get their ego checked, and I think it's a good thing because it keeps the right people in the gym and the wrong people out.
That's right.
Rob, do you know anything about the Tiger Muay Thai gym?
Yeah, a bit. I mean, I've got a very good friend of mine there, Johnny Betts. He's a real good friend of mine, a good friend of Dorian's. He comes up and fights at Max quite a bit, and they've got some good fighters there.
I see
a lot of big name UFC guys training there now as well. I think Jan, is it Jan who's fighting on the 11th? The tryouts as well. They have the tryouts once a year.
I see that on the internet. So like when people see that and they see that on YouTube and they're like, oh my God, this is what Muay Thai is. That's not the right thing, right? Like people are not.
Well, it's probably a bit. Yeah, it's probably a little bit of marketing as well, but it's how they're you can maybe see something like that a little bit sometimes in the gyms, test the fighter's heart. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And some of the trainers can be very hard with the fighters, especially if they've got a big fight and they don't, it's how you find out about the fighter. Is he going to get in the ring and basically perform, under pressure? And so there's a little bit of that, I would say, goes on, but I'd say probably a fair bit of it is probably marketing as well, I don't know, but I'm guessing there.
I haven't been to that.
Probably going to get told off by Tiger Muay Thai for that. But it's they do go hard on the guys, though, from what I've seen of it as well,
Yeah.
But if you're gonna offer someone a contract, and it's a bit different to bringing someone up as a fighter that you've worked with as a kid, and you can see whether they're going to sink or swim or not. It's a quicker way to find it out, really, isn't it, I suppose?
Yeah, you skip all the steps of not knowing the person for a long time, and you're like, okay, is this going to work or not?
That's right, and they found some good guys through that as well.
Oh, they have a great team, right?
Yeah, very good. It's one of the guys. I think he's on the big 11th, July the 11th. I might be wrong here, but I think one of the guys that's fighting on the July 11th, possibly the guy that's fighting. What's his name? The Brazilian, Aldo. I think he came through. I think he might have come through the Tiger trials, or he's one of the Tiger fighters. I think they got some great fighters down there. I mean, it's a lot of people. You all see people complaining about it on the internet. Oh, it's too commercial, but it's a business at the end of the day.
There's good guys.
Yeah, and if you're a good guy, and if you're at a good level, and you go in there with the good guys, and you've got no attitude, then you're going to learn. Loma's there, the Loma Sitbumi, she's there now since she started doing MMA. I think Fabio Pinca's there now, who's a very, very good French Muay Thai fighter. He was a Ratchaman champion, Thai fight champion. He trained at my gym years ago, but he's switched over to MMA now, so he's working at Tiger. I mean, it's for MMA guys, it's almost a perfect environment,
Yeah, no, they have. They're coming from a jiu-jitsu background, even a striking background.
Yeah,
like you said, I see the people. They have an awesome camp, and people can call it commercial all they want. It's a beautiful facility that is set up amazing. It is a fighter's dream to be able to have all of those amenities at one place. Yeah. And honestly, if I ever got the chance to go there and train, I would 100% go.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to try it. I mean, at my age, I'm not really setting any world records or anything by training. If I can last a session, I've done well. But it'd be great to train somewhere like that.
Give it a shot.
You
right?
can.
My friend Alan Belcher. Do you know who Alan Belcher is?
I've heard the name. Yeah.
UFC. He goes to Tiger Muay Thai a couple times.
Yeah.
Like once every 2 years or 3 years, and he'll go and train. And he's under Duke Rufus.
Yeah. Oh, I know Duke. Yeah, yeah.
And you know, he goes and he brings a crew of guys. So next time he goes, I'll let you know. Maybe we can all meet there and have some fun.
Yeah, it's you know, Phuket as well. You're on an island, so it's you know, it's got something for everyone. I mean, no one gym, I don't think, is a perfect place for everyone. You know,
of course,
a lot of people won't like it there. Too many people, too crowded, whatever. You know, my gym, I've got a very small kind of family gym. Some people are going to like that more. You know, obviously, if you are looking for that, give me a message. But quick plug there. But
I'll come see you anyway, Rob. I'm going to come see you anyway.
No problem. But there's no one perfect fit for anyone anywhere, is there? You know. But Tiger, you know, you can't deny they've got some incredible fighters there training there. They're good people. Like I say, Johnny Betts, who fights out there. Johnny's a great guy, passionate about the sport. George Hickman, who runs the MMA there, he's a great guy. I bump into him quite a bit at the one shows. They're good people, you know. And I think if you go anywhere like that, if you haven't got an attitude and you're prepared to learn, then you can't go wrong.
Yeah, me and Dorian talked about that a lot. That's something I'm going to talk about at the end of the show. Rob, I want to know, stylistically, some guys who have came to Thailand were originally started with a different background other than traditional Muay Thai, tapping the foot, you know, the beat, who made a really good transition to fighting that you've seen and that you're like, man, this guy capitalizes on the traditional Muay Thai because he came from this background. He knows how to implement this kind of style.
Yeah, I'm not too sure, to be honest with you. I mean, I think I'm kind of at a disadvantage here. I'm kind of been so entrenched with the Thai scene. Mm-hmm. It's kind of... I'm a little bit out of the loop of where people have come from when they come in, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah,
I mean, there are quite a lot. I mean, most of the real top level guys that I've seen, though, I think have been pretty much, you know, the likes of Danny Bill,
Ramon,
Stefan Nakima, and you had Ryan Simpson, the good Dutch guys, the strong French guys, Jean-Charles Skarborski, who I love to death, John. I mean, he was kind of, when I first really got into the whole press side of things and media, you know, it was kind of when Skarborski was in his prime, you know, so I went to watch a lot of his fights. And he's a great guy, he's a good friend, you know. And so most of these guys, I think they kind of, Damien Alamos, they kind of came from a Muay Thai background. I'm struggling a little bit to think of anyone that kind of switched from and it probably is. I have seen some, but unfortunately, 53 years of age, my memory is definitely not as good as it used to be.
How about just like stylistically, like me and Dorian were talking about the Dutch fighters. They come from kind of that Kyokushin background.
That's right.
It's super hard style.
Very powerful, very tough guys. Kyokushin guys.
They turn the body and overemphasize the punch almost like a boxer as opposed to just like flicking punches, you know.
That's
not that traditional Thai guys do that, but you can see the mechanics of the upper body almost change a little bit more.
That's right.
Right?
It's kind of to fit into the stadium style of fighting, you know, that's kind of I mean, the Thais, you don't really see that with the Thais, you know. The punching, I mean, it's more about the kicks and the knees. There are hard punches, but with Kyokushin guys moving in as well, you know, the elbows bring a totally different dimension into how you box in a Muay Thai fight, right? You know, in the clinch, or also just setting yourself up for a punch, or you coming in, you know, anything puts off a puncher or a boxer is an elbow, you know, because they're in close, throwing a punch and then bang. You know, you get hit with a hard elbow. So you've got to set your punches up different. You can't be kind of, do you know what I mean? There's a different way of boxing almost. You know, a lot of people in the West come in, Thais, they can't box. They can. You want to go in the gym and spar with them, just hands, and they can box. But when they fight, they can't box like that when they're fighting because they'll get elbowed to bits, you know. Or they get caught or knee in the face, caught in the clinch, you know. So you know, those kind of things add a different dimension to it.
And also the difference between K1 fight and a Muay Thai fight, points are different.
Yeah.
There's no clinch in K1. You can only do a 3-second clinch, I think it is.
Yeah, and it's got to be offensive. I'm not sure so much about K1, but I know with one championship, you know, there was a bit of a controversy last year with Petrosian when he fought the Thai guy, and the Thai guy was doing a lot of clinching in I think the second round or the third round, and they kind of ruled the fight a no contest after, because when they really looked at it, he was clinching a lot, but it was the rules should be that you should be using the clinch aggressively to set up an attack,
right?
Whereas he was kind of just clinching to slow the fight down. Well, that's how they saw it. Do you know what I mean?
Like Mayweather.
Yeah, and it is. It's like literally, like you say, it's 3 minutes, for 3 seconds, 3 minutes, 3 minute clinch. God, 3 seconds it has to be. You know, they'll break the clinch up all the time in Thailand if there's nothing happening. It's kind of like that fallacy of like, it's another fallacy of the West. Oh, they just go in a clinch to buy themselves a bit of time. I tell you, if you ever clinched with a Thai, there's no way you're going in there to get a breather, because they are so strong. There's an unnatural strength with them. You know, I remember the first time I ever came to Thailand, 1991. I trained at a gym called Sorvorapin. They had a guy called Rajasak Sorvorapin. He was a multiple Ratchaman champion, and he was known as a clinch and knee fighter. Very tall, skinny, tall and lean for a Thai. And they'll kind of try and, if you're tall and skinny, they'll try and turn you into a clinch and knee fighter, you know, or a knee fighter. And I walked in the gym, and I was like 72 kilos. I think he was champion about maybe 60 kilos. So I had about 12, 30, maybe 14 kilos in weight on him. And the trainer said to me, "Oh, go and clinch him, champion." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, all right. Oh, this will be all right." And, oh, mate, I literally lasted 2 minutes, and they had to get me out of the ring just to save me. And just the difference in strength is just like, I've never seen anything like it in my life. For someone 14 kilos lighter than me as well, just throwing me about and just pulling my head down. I couldn't even lift my head up. And that night, kind of, the gym was in a place called Khao San Road, which has become like a rural kind of backpackers ghetto now. It was just kind of just starting to become like that then. And every night, there had all these guest houses and coffee shops where they'd have these pirate movies, and you could see a sign outside, 7 o'clock, they've got whatever movie. So we've gone in there that night after the first time I'd clinched with him. I didn't clinch for long, 5 minutes maybe. Huh? And I clinched with this couple of Swiss guys that were very strong as well. They'd been training in Thailand for a while, and they really knew the clinch. And I couldn't keep my head up to watch a movie. It was like, literally, I was just like...
Your neck, it just hurts so bad.
Yeah, they just got phenomenal strength. They're clinching from like the age of 10, you know, sometimes 30 minutes, an hour a day. It's almost unnatural. And, you know, me and Dorian, when we commentate, we talk about it all the time. This fallacy about, they're clinching, it's slowing the fight up. They break the clinch immediately entirely if there's nothing happening. They go in a clinch to knee you to bits if they can, you know, and you've got and the strength and the technique, you know, there's no way you're having a rest in the clinch in Thailand, you know.
And Rob, just like you said, if you've ever been in the clinch with somebody who really knows how to clinch, you feel like you're smothering, you feel like you can't breathe, and it wears on your body horribly.
This guy, going back to this guy Rajasak I clinched with, his nickname was the knee fighter that hunts souls. And he actually took my soul that day in about 5 minutes flat. You know, I never ever want to clinch with him ever again, you know. And it is just, there's nowhere to run, you know. There was I don't know if you've seen another very famous fighter in recent years, a guy called Ponsanay Sitmonchai. And I love Ponsanay. He's a real character as well, but outside the ring. But he was kind of more your Western style of fight. The Jimmys from Sitmonchai, they're kind of renowned for hard punching, solid low kicks. They try and go in for the kill, a bit away from kind of your more traditional Muay Thai.
Okay.
And there was another fighter he fought, Palangtip, his name was, and his Palangtip, he would just control the ring against Ponsanay. 5 rounds, Ponsanay just coming in and just trying to take his head off, trying to kill his legs with low kicks. and he just couldn't do it. And you know, the whole thing about, oh, this guy's so scary, his punches, his low kicks, he had no fear against him, this other guy. And he beat him 2 or 3 times, I think. I think he stopped him with an elbow. But you ever see Palantip fight a guy that was a clincher knee fighter? He'd give up in the 4th round.
Right.
Because he was kind of known for not training too hard. He was like, oh, if he trains too hard, he comes out in a fever. And, you know, he'd rely on his skill and his technique, which he could do against Ponte. Block, see the punches coming, move out the way. And he could go 5 rounds. He would go 6 or 7 rounds. You get in the ring with a guy that a real, like, horrible grind you down, get you in. And there's a lock they do where they get the arm around the back of the neck, and then the other arm kind of comes up this way and locks in, and they'll pull down on the neck. And you get a strong clinch guy that does that, and they're often the shorter clincher knee guys that do that, and they bury their head in the chest, and it just soul destroying. Do you know what I mean? They hang off you. You can't do anything against it, or a lot of fighters can't. And Palantip fight someone like that. Round 4, he'd give up. He'd be like, you see him walk around the ring and just touch gloves, and you know, he's got no heart at all when he fights a clincher knee fighter. You know,
because I've heard this analogy before. I heard it from, who did I hear it from? I forget where I heard. I don't know if I heard it from when I went to a seminar at Coban's, because I live in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So New York is
okay.
close. I don't know if I heard it from him or I heard it from my friend Rami Abraham. Do you know who he is?
Oh yeah, I know Rami. Yeah.
Or
I know a few of the Philly guys that trained at my gym before. You know, Rigel and
oh, cool.
And Justin, who's, I'm not going to attempt to say surname because I'll massacre it. Justin, Michael Rackay as well. So I know quite a few of the Philly guys and Muay Thai guys. Yeah.
I don't know where I heard this from, but it made sense early on in Muay Thai that every time somebody clinches on you, and they do it correctly, they can make you carry their weight for a long time. And if just think, you're trying to hold up 100-something pounds and they're just dragging you to the floor and you're trying to stay up. It's like the Mike Tyson bar on the video game. Your energy just goes like this.
Yeah, rapidly. A lot of people don't understand that in the West. You know, there's kind of misconception about the Thai clinch, and you know, oh, it's a bit poor. I'm not a massive fan of watching 2 guys just clinch a knee for 5 rounds. You know, but if you get the real good guys and they're busy and they're active, and you can watch the technique, and you know, it's almost a martial art in itself. The Thai clinch. You know.
Oh yeah.
The control of it, the positioning, the arm positioning. You know. Defensively, because another guy's going to be trying to elbow your head off while you're in the clinch as well. You know,
do the Thais? I guess it depends on which camp. I grew up in a Muay Thai culture where we did heavily emphasize a lot of clinch. Does it depend on the camp that you go to, where they'll do clinch for a half an hour, just clinch?
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, some gyms are kind of just renowned for it, especially in this kind of day and age. I remember there's a famous gym in Bangkok, Pinsin Chai. It's not so big now, but I mean, it was a big gym back in the golden era there. Guys like Burt Pinsin Chai, Thailand Pinsin Chai, some very good fighters. And I remember going there once to watch the training, and I was just like, oh God, it's too much. They were like clinching an hour before the rest of the class. And, and the guys were clinching with head guards on. Yeah. That was the start of the class, an hour's clinch, and there were a few of them were wearing head guards, just to stop the ears from getting so mangled, from the clinch. I mean, you can spot a Muay Thai fighter straight away. It's a bit like Jiu Jitsu or, wrestling. The ears, they've all got cauliflower ears, and as much of that is from the clinch as it is from getting kicked or punched, But, and like I said, watching them, they were clinching for an hour. And then a few years after that, I started working for this famous gym, Khao Samret. And there was a movie being made at the time called Choc D. There was a famous French fighter, Dida Diafat. He fought Ramon Deckers a couple of times. I actually saw him fight Ramon in Paris.
What's his name?
Dida Diafat. He fought quite a few good Thais back in the day.
From Brazil?
No, French guy. French guy.
What's his name?
Dida. His surname Diafat. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correct. Diafat, I think. But he was a big name back in the day. He beat Ramon twice. I saw him fight Ramon live in Paris. I think it was on the same show as Rufus fought Rob Carman. Okay. And But anyway, he made this movie called Chok D in Thai's Good Luck, and it was about this kind of French kid that went to Thailand and he became a famous fighter. And they filmed part of the movie in Pinsinchai, and the boss of Khao Samrit, he was part. They got him in as kind of an extra. He played a referee in some of the fight scenes. Oh, we're going over. I'd only been at the gym a few days. Oh, Rob, we're going to make a movie over at Pinsinchai. Do you want to come along? Like, oh yeah, why not? And there's quite a few stars there, and. We turned up and they were still training, and this was like 11 o'clock in the morning, and they're still drilling elbows and blah blah blah. I think it's 11 o'clock. They're going to have a shower, have something to eat. That's going to be about 12 o'clock. They'll be back training at 3. Do they not get absolutely exhausted? They just train so hard at this gym,
Oh, like at the clinch,
and like I say,
elbows,
everything. But I mean, literally an hour clinching.
Oh,
in the afternoon. I'm sure they clinched in the morning as well.
That's wicked. That is wicked.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the listeners out there, if you've never clinched with a really good person for an hour straight, that is just like bloody hard. Like,
and they do the shark tank as well here, with especially the guy's got a big fight coming in. He's there. He's just clinching non-stop, and they've got 3 guys changing all the time, so they're fresh or fresher,
Rob, I got one more question, and then we're gonna end.
Go for it.
We have so much. We had so much, on my mind that I want to ask you. I know it's later there in Thailand, so I want to make sure that you can, go do your thing.
Yep.
What's something? Do you follow MMA right now, or not that much?
Yeah. I've started. Like I said, I mean, I kind of about August last year, I kind of got the call from One to help them become an official for One. So I was going to the One shows. Judging the Super Series of kickboxing, the Muay Thai fights, and obviously there was a talk of in the future possibly judging MMA fights, and I have since. I think I judged my first MMA fight back in February in Singapore. So I've been since August last year. I've really been getting into it, and it's kind of like one of those things. I've always kind of been just Muay Thai. Even K1 to a certain degree, I wasn't massively following as much. I was just so immersed in Muay Thai, and it's kind of maybe a bit snobbery as well. Jiu Jitsu or just rolling on the floor, that kind of thing. And since I've been with One, I've started doing BJJ at the age of 52.
Now you BJJ. Now you train BJJ.
Yeah, I've started doing that. I did it for about 2 or 3 months, and then kind of this whole COVID situation's kind of put a stop. But I think my gym's actually opening up tomorrow, so I'm going to be back down there maybe Thursday or maybe Tuesday next week. I'll go in the daytime when they train on Tuesdays and Thursdays. But I love it, and I've really been getting into MMA as well. I mean, Dorian's been a big help with that, obviously, because he's very much involved. He was involved with UFC.
Would you tell the guys who do Muay Thai right now, Rob, who never did Jiu Jitsu, what's your advice to them? Would you say, hey, man, give it a shot? I think you'd like it.
Yeah. I mean, I speak to a lot of people, the Thais, the fighters, because I still do quite a bit of press work, interviews and that. And I said to a few of them, and I always ask, oh, you're fighting for One now, like City Chai maybe or Superman. Have you thought about going into MMA? And they're like, nah, too old now. These guys are kind of in their late 20s, and they're kind of like, nah, it's probably past my time. But Rot Tang, he's been training down at FedEx. He's actually been training with DJ, doing Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and he's still only quite young. I think he's 21, 22, 23 maybe, something like that. And apparently, he's decent. And he's picking it up really quick, and he's kind of got that style as well. Short, stocky, aggressive, hard punches. He's going to be strong to wrestle with. You know what I mean? So I think there's a market. I'm not massively into pushing people into doing anything, but I definitely talk to people about having a go at it. Yeah.
Cool. What would you say from your view of martial arts right now on the MMA scene that you think that the MMA fighters could be implementing more striking wise that maybe they aren't doing right now as a whole?
That's a tough one, because obviously, there's so many parameters, isn't there, that you've got to bring into question, how effective can you be as a striker? Let's, for example, Amanda Nunes versus Jermaine Durandamy.
I mean, all right, I like that.
Nunes is as a striker, she scares me. I wouldn't want to spar with her as a striker. But Jermaine, I mean, her striking's on another level, you know.
Sure.
And she was out fighting, and straight away, Nunes knew what she had to do: takedowns, get her on the floor, wrestle, and the fight was over. So, you know, there's so many variables in there that you've got to be careful with, you know. As a striker, if you don't want to get taken down, if you don't want to get kind of, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Do you think that one thing that I've heard before from a really good guy in Muay Thai was MMA guys don't know how to leg kick hard enough?
Possibly. But, I mean, obviously, how safe is it to throw a hard leg kick?
It's true.
You know, if you miss or... do you know what I mean? That's going back to the same thing. You know, it's like I was saying to you before, the analogy about a boxer. You know, Thais can't box. They can, but they can't in a Muay Thai fight as easily as they would. You know, just boxing. You know, because there's elbows coming at them, and you know, if they're dropping down with the head, they're going to get a knee in the face or a kick in the face. You know, it's you just got to train your strengths, but also at the same time be aware of what you could be up against and work around defending against that, haven't you? You know, you can't just work on your low kicks, work on your punches, but with in mind that you might be fighting a guy that's just going to shoot in and take your legs and get you on the ground, and you know, defending against that as well, and throwing the punch in a way that you're not going to open yourself up for that technique, you know.
Would you say that was kind of like the same thing we just talked about with Amanda and
without a doubt, you know.
Right.
I mean Nunes, I mean, she looks unbeatable, didn't she? But I mean, if randomly, maybe, you know, I mean, she'd probably take a lot of work, but she really worked on her takedown defense and ground game more, then that could be, you know, that's one fighter out there that probably would stand a chance against her. But as it stands now, you know, and you know, Nunes has just got that edge, shouldn't she, on the ground? And
did you see Cyborg versus Amanda?
Yeah, wow, it's incredible.
Wow,
scary.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then the last fight that Nunes had with the Canadian girl, you know, she was game, she was tough, big heart, but I mean, Nunes, she's just on a different level, isn't she?
Ooh. So really quick, we'll geek out on this for 1 minute, then we'll answer our last question, then we'll go. When you see Amanda striking for MMA, because it seems like you've watched her a couple of times, what is she doing stylistically that gets people in MMA so mixed up and they can't pick up on her style? What is it that she's doing that people can't pick up on her style?
I'm not so much into the style. It's just a raw power and strength. And,
is it just raw power and strength?
I think that's got a big part in it. You know, she's just so strong, and you know, she hits like a mule, doesn't she? She hits hard, she kicks hard, but then when you get to the real high level strikers like Jermaine, she's got that timing and speed, and you know, that ability to see those shots and maybe move out the way and pick her off standing up. So what does she do? She just changes it, takes it to a totally different level, and in that level, you know, Jermaine's out of her depth, isn't she?
Rob, are really hard punchers like Tyson and, you know, these guys who are, you know, one hitter quitter guys, are those people, in your experience, are those people made or are those people born? Because there's two different opinions.
There's a little bit of both, I would say. I think there has to be a natural, innate power there. You know, some people just have it, that power that, you know, I've trained with kids, I'm going back to when I was training in London, in Victoria, this little gym, and there was this kid there, and he didn't have a massive amount of training, but he could move about, he knew how to throw a shot. I remember sparring and the trainer, Tim Isley, he said, "Oh yeah, no, this kid can bang a bit, Rob, you know, be careful." And I'm like, yeah, but it's, you know, I've trained in Thailand, and he cracked me with a right cross. I'm like, bam, wow, that boy can punch, you know. There's that natural side to it, but, you know, it takes someone else to bring out that, a really good trainer can, you know, really bring that out, and then you can get someone really special, you know.
Cool.
Look at, for example, you know, maybe Deontay Wilder. I mean, he's just got incredible power, hasn't he? But technically, he's not got it yet, you know. you saw that with Fury. You could back him up. He didn't know how to fight off the back foot. He'd lose his balance. You know, with a bit more training on the fundamentals, and you know, it'd be even more scary. But there's definitely that natural, innate power in certain fighters, without a doubt.
Yeah, like that guy Francis Cigano. Is that his name? The UFC guy, the heavyweight.
Oh yeah. Oh my God! Did he fight about 3 or 4 weeks ago?
Yes.
I think, or the left hook.
Yeah,
and you saw it land, and you're just like, oh my God, I feel so sorry for that guy.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, no, it's scary. That's natural, you know. That's natural. But
natural.
If you've got that natural, and then you can add technique and skill and style, then you know, forget about it.
And I'm sure you see it even in Thailand, Rob, because you get so many cultures coming to Thailand that maybe don't have like a traditional Thai background, but they have they have some training.
The boxing
you get guys from like Russia who are just like, you know, or Swiss or whatever, who just naturally have power, and then you show them how to punch, and you're like, oh my God, this guy could knock a house down.
Yeah. Right? It's like I was going back to this kid in England. You know, he hadn't trained that much, and it was kind of the gym I used to train at. You had a few serious guys that train him 5 times a week, and some of us would meet up at somewhere else and do a bit of training with each other, you know. And this kid was like training maybe twice a week, you know, and going to school, two hour-and-a-half classes a week. And he hit me with his right hand, and it was like, wow, yeah, no, you can hit. There was another kid that used to train there that kicked like an absolute mule, but put them in a gym where they're training twice a day, then who knows, you know.
And possibilities are endless at that point, right?
Yeah.
All right, Rob, thanks so much for being on. But before we end, I ask everybody this question. In your opinion, what does it mean to have a black belt mindset?
Black belt mindset.
And this is your personal opinion.
I mean, obviously coming from a martial art that's not really belt orientated, but for me, I would say it would be kind of like that. It's not cliche about martial arts, you know, the integrity, the spirit, discipline, determination, a very, very, very strong work ethic. I mean, you're talking, you know, obviously black belts in some sports are probably overrated nowadays. Your McDojos, you know, where you can get one in sort of 6 months, you know, but something like a proper BJJ black belt, then you've got to have a work ethic, determination, patience. You know, you've got to be doing it for years, haven't you, before you get anywhere close to it.
Awesome. Well, that's a good note to end on, Rob. Thanks so much for coming on the show, man.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure. Enjoyed it.
I'll see you soon. We'll talk again, and have a good night.
Definitely. All right, mate. Take care. Thanks for having me.
Bye.